Now, you mentioned you wanted to point out another issue besides the matter of drones with respect to Congressman Hanna's actions in Congress.
Yeah. Another thing that I feel is very important is H.R. 2130. It's also called the Skills Visa Act. And right now we just saw in December the job report for the nation, the unemployment rate went down, which everyone should be very happy about, except until they actually understand it's not because we had more people get jobs. Only 74,000 people got jobs last year. In December. 400,000 people stopped being counted. They just don't count.
A lot of people just gave up.
They just gave up, and they're not being counted. The government said, well, they're not there anymore. They don't exist, which is ridiculous. Now, at a time when we're seeing that kind of impact to our economy, where families are just not counted anymore, and they're still unemployed, we're looking at STEM jobs being one of the growth areas. Half the rate of unemployment with STEM jobs is half as much. The amount of pay is about twice the average pay. And these are important jobs, and my opponent is willing to go under H.R. 2131 to give 160,000 of those jobs to foreigners. I disagree with that.
So how many should be allowed? Any?
Well, currently, we do give some, and that's fine. I don't see a reason to increase that. Why should we increase it by 90,000? Why should 90,000 more foreigners get these jobs instead of 90,000 people across the United States and also in New York State? It was last week, my opponent was speaking to Syracuse Media Group and a bunch of newspapers. And in that, he mentioned Remington Arms. It was vital to keep that gun manufacturer in New York State because it's 1,200 families in New York counting on those jobs. So we have to fight for them. Okay, and I pose this question. If those 1,200 families are important, why aren't the families who would be having STEM jobs, why aren't they just as important to fight for? Why give them away?
Tell me about your early efforts to raise money, because, and it always comes back, I mean, we were talking about this on Friday when Donald Trump was on the air, raising the possibility, and again, let each person decide for him or herself whether Donald Trump is serious about running for governor, or if he's just dangling this, in front of Republicans. I saw one columnist said he's almost like Lucy with the football, pulling the football away from Charlie Brown, that we've seen this happen before. I don't know if that's going to happen this year with respect to Trump and running for New York governor. But it does always come down to a matter of money. I mean, Rob Astorino was here a few days ago. He looks to be perhaps the most likely Republican candidate for governor at this point. He seems to have the backing of the party, but even he is going to have a great difficulty raising enough money against an incumbent governor who we already know has amassed more than $33 million essentially to scare off most challengers. So tell me about your efforts to raise money to go up against an incumbent member of Congress.
Well, a lot of incumbents count on the fact that they have both the position, the access to the media, and a large war chest to keep away challengers. I don't believe that's a reason to not go forward. I've been going forward. We just recently had a fundraiser out in Endicott, which went well, and I was happy for everyone who showed up.
How much did you pull in?
Oh, well, we don't need to go over the numbers.
Well,
I didn't make $1 million. I didn't make $1 million.
But my point was, I didn't expect you to say, okay, this is how much. But my point is, okay, it was a fundraiser, but look, and I haven't looked at the numbers. Richard Hanna has a lot of money on hand, no doubt. And he told me, in fact, early on, one of the first interviews we did was about one of the worst things for any member of Congress, regardless of party. I mean, and he talked about it on the air, how distasteful it was. Every day, as a member of Congress, he goes across the street to a nondescript office building, and for an hour or 2 hours a day, he works the phones. He's busy fundraising, and he has to. That's part of the process. So he's busy raising money to basically keep people like you from even having the audacity of talking about mounting a challenge?
Well, that's because a lot of the members of Congress aren't getting the job done. They're not doing the job that they were elected for. It's very difficult to run for an election when you have a record that doesn't support you being reelected. And it costs a lot of money to convince people that even though it's a bad situation, vote for me again anyway. And we see that with many politicians. And that's what they need the repetition of that advertising for. That's where the bulk of the money goes. You see my face, you see my name, vote for me anyway, don't pay attention to my record. Well, it doesn't cost as much when you actually are telling people the truth and you're actually trying to stand there and reflect their views and get the job done in Congress, which is what I'm looking to do. I believe it'll cost me 1/10 what it will cost him, because I'm not trying to say, even though there's an 8% approval, even though I'm giving jobs to foreigners, even though I am doing half the job on getting drones in New York State and to the nation on these issues and many others, you should vote for me. Well, but
you know, it's ironic. You talk about an 8% approval rating. That's for Congress in general. And then when pollsters drill down and ask people, how do you feel about your current member of Congress, the popularity rating is much higher. Now, I don't know what Mr. Hanna's approval rating is in the district, but it's definitely above 8%. The point is that people will say generically, yeah, that Congress does nothing to speak of, nothing good, and when they do something, it's just spend more of our money, our hard-earned money. So they get this single-digit approval rating. But by and large, all across the country, when people are asked about their incumbent member of Congress, they tend to have a favorable view.
Well, it's because they're not bad people. They have good intentions. I don't believe that Mr. Hanna is there because he's trying to do something wrong or something bad for the district. I think that he's not being effective enough. I don't think he's reflecting the people. And that's the biggest thing. We lack accountability in Congress right now. That's the huge thing. They're not accountable to us and responsible to us because they're going out, they're taking votes that the people don't agree with, they're passing laws that are ineffective or failing to pass laws like the Amash Amendment, which actually would resolve this problem with the NSA that President Obama's talking about. We already had the law that would have fixed it, and Mr. Hanna voted against it. There's a problem with that. But rather than, if he were actually focusing on what people wanted, he wouldn't have to worry about raising money.
Michael Vasquez plans to challenge incumbent Republican Richard Hanna. Good to have you on our program. We'll have you back.
I look forward to it.